Hey friend, welcome back. This is the Daily Spark. Let's learn something fun today. But first, I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh, what did you do this time?
I completely ruined the studio coffee machine this morning. I put the wrong pot in, forced it shut, and water everywhere.
I saw that. There was a literal lake on the counter. I was wondering who the guilty party was.
It was me. And you know that terrible feeling you get? Your stomach drops, you freeze, you want to run away?
Oh, absolutely. The classic flight response. We all know it.
Now imagine that feeling, but you have to explain it in another language.
That is terrifying. It is like your brain just shuts down completely.
Exactly. Learning to speak English is scary enough on a good day. When things go wrong, the panic multiplies by 100.
It really does. You forget every single word you know.
But it doesn't have to be a nightmare, I promise. Handling unexpected problems in English is much easier when you know the right phrases to stay cool and find a solution.
That is so true. A good phrase is like a life jacket. It keeps you floating until you can figure things out. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever realized you made a huge mistake at work and completely panicked about how to explain it in English?
Oh man, just hearing that question makes my palms sweat. It is the absolute worst feeling in the corporate world.
It really is. What is your worst work mistake, Ryan? Come on, make us all feel better about ourselves.
Okay, fine. A few years ago, I sent an email. It had the entire budget for the year attached to it.
That sounds important. Who did you send it to?
The wrong client, a rival company. It was a disaster.
No way. That is actually my worst nightmare right there.
I stared at the screen for 5 straight minutes. I was just paralyzed. I wanted to crawl under my desk.
The under-the-desk urge is so real. You just want to hide.
Right. And we do this weird thing when we panic. We either over-apologize or we try to cover it up.
Yes, we say, I'm so sorry 50 times, or we pretend the mistake never happened at all.
But neither of those things actually fixes the situation, right?
Exactly. The problem is still sitting there on the table, and when you're speaking English, you feel extra judged.
You really do. You think people are mad at your English, but actually they just want to fix the problem.
That's such a good point. They just want a fix.
Business is just a series of problems. Solving them is normal. We just need the vocabulary to manage the crash smoothly.
I love that. Managing the crash. It happens to everyone. A mistake is like spilling coffee. It's messy, but you just grab a towel and wipe it up.
Exactly. You don't cry over the coffee, you clean it. And today, we're giving you the paper towels.
I need those paper towels. I mess up all the time.
We all do. It's proof that we're trying things.
And honestly, people respect you more when you handle it well.
That's the secret. The mistake isn't the story. The recovery is the story. How you bounce back matters.
So true. Let's show everyone how to bounce back smoothly.
I will never forget my sister's wedding day.
Oh no, this already sounds terrible.
Well, it was raining heavily that morning. We had a sudden venue change to an indoor tent.
Okay, that is incredibly stressful on its own.
I was in charge of telling the catering company. And honestly, I totally forgot to call them.
You forgot the food? At a wedding?
Yes, I realized my mistake 2 hours before dinner. I had to call the head chef immediately.
My heart is racing just hearing this story.
I forced myself to stay completely calm. I picked up the phone and spoke softly. I said, "We have a slight problem."
That is genius. It is so beautifully gentle.
Exactly. Adding the word slight changes the whole mood.
It feels like a tiny bump in the road.
Right. It doesn't feel like a massive disaster.
If you scream, we have a huge crisis. People instantly panic. It's just human nature.
But "we have a slight problem" feels very steady. It tells the listener that you're in control.
I love that. Another great phrase is very similar. You can say, there seems to be an issue.
Oh man, I use that one at work constantly.
It feels very professional, don't you think?
It really does. It feels like you're a detective.
Yes, like you just discovered a fascinating mystery.
You're not loudly saying, I broke the system. You're just pointing out the issue very safely. Think about your own daily life for a second. You notice a strange mistake on a big project. You've been there, right?
Way too many times, to be honest. So here is your use it tomorrow tip. Next time you spot a bad mistake, just pause.
Do not panic. Do not apologize in a rush.
Just calmly say, there seems to be an issue.
It buys you precious time to find a fix. But what happens when you can't find a quick fix, Mia?
Oh, that is the worst feeling ever.
Like, imagine you accidentally deleted the entire shared client presentation.
Oh no, do you just run into your boss's office?
Yeah. Do you yell, I am a terrible employee, please fire me now?
Please never do that. That is way too dramatic.
Or what about, oopsie daisies, the big file just magically vanished?
That makes you sound like a toddler.
Exactly. You want to avoid sounding childish or totally panicked.
You need to be honest, but keep your professional dignity.
So instead, start with this phrase. Things didn't go as planned.
I love how that phrase feels. It's very soft.
It feels objective. It doesn't sound like a guilty confession.
You're just stating a fact. The plan simply changed.
It puts a helpful buffer between you and the actual mistake.
Exactly. It removes the intense emotion from the immediate issue.
But honestly, sometimes a soft approach is not enough.
Right. Sometimes you just have to take the full blame.
Yeah, like when there's absolutely no hiding your error.
That's when you just say, I messed up.
This phrase feels incredibly brave. It's raw and direct.
It shows you own the mistake completely without making excuses.
There's no defensive tone. You're dropping your shield.
People really respect that kind of upfront honesty, you know?
It helps solve the awkward tension in the room instantly.
Think about the last big mistake you made at work.
We all have at least one terrible memory.
If it happened today, how would you confess it?
Honestly, I would just admit it right away and offer a fix. That's actually the perfect use it tomorrow tip.
When you finally admit a fault, don't over-explain it.
Just say, I messed up, and then stop talking.
Then immediately suggest a way to fix the broken thing.
Taking action is always better than giving a long apology.
Taking action is the only way to actually solve the mess.
Exactly. Picture yourself stranded at a freezing train station.
Oh, honestly, my absolute worst nightmare.
The board flashes. Your last train home is officially canceled.
The ticket office is closed. My phone is dying.
You really need to stay calm in this moment.
You look at your panicked travel buddy.
You take charge. Okay, let's figure this out.
How about we try finding a late-night diner?
Did you feel the energy shift in that role play?
It completely changes the mood from panic to action.
Let's figure this out is a magical anchor phrase.
It feels exactly like taking a deep, slow breath.
It's not just about finding quick answers.
No, it's about building instant teamwork.
You pull the other person onto your side.
You're no longer two victims of a bad schedule.
You're a dynamic duo fighting the problem together.
I dare you to try this tomorrow.
Use it when you cannot decide what to eat for dinner.
Look your partner in the eye. Tell them, let's figure this out.
They might think you're acting like an action hero.
But it totally works. Then you drop the next phrase.
Right, the suggestion. How about we try?
This is the perfect way to avoid sounding bossy.
It's so much softer than saying, we need to go here.
It feels like you're opening a door for them.
You casually invite them to explore the idea with you.
If the diner is closed, no one feels stupid.
Because you only suggested trying it, you know?
So here's your tip for the real world tomorrow.
When a coworker drops a stressful problem on your desk,
Don't just stare at them like a frozen statue.
take a breath, say, okay, let's figure this out.
It instantly makes you sound like a confident, supportive leader.
But even a confident leader can't solve everything entirely alone.
Very true. Sometimes an unexpected issue is just too huge.
When that happens to me, I honestly just yell out. I literally just shout, "Somebody please help me right now."
Ryan, absolutely not. That sounds way too panicked.
Hey, I mean screaming gets very fast results in the office.
It also completely terrifies your poor coworkers.
Fair point. But what do you guys listening think?
I prefer a much softer approach to getting assistance.
Listen closely. You decide what sounds better for your workplace.
Instead of screaming, try asking, "Could you give me a hand?"
Oh, I really like how calm that sounds. It feels much less like a sudden terrifying emergency.
Exactly. You are not begging someone to completely rescue you.
Right. You're just asking them for a little temporary support.
It feels very friendly, like a casual invitation.
Give me a hand feels like sharing a heavy box.
Yes, you're just borrowing their brain power for a minute.
Well, what if you're completely lost on a confusing task?
Then you can simply say, "I'm a bit stuck."
Oh man, I absolutely love using that specific phrase.
Why does it feel so comforting to say out loud?
Because the word stuck feels so incredibly physical to me.
Like your winter boots are trapped in thick, wet mud.
Yes, it clearly means you're not failing at your job.
Your daily progress just temporarily stopped moving forward.
You just need a tiny little push to get going again.
Think about that for a second.
It really removes all the heavy shame from asking.
It totally does. You're just paused, not totally broken.
So, here's your practical use it tomorrow tip.
Next time you stare blankly at a very confusing spreadsheet,
Do not just suffer in complete silence at your desk.
walk right over to a friendly colleague.
Just smile nicely and say, "Hey, I'm a bit stuck."
But wait, after your colleague helps you get unstuck, what comes next?
That's where Western workplace culture gets really fascinating, honestly. In many English-speaking offices, failure is actually openly celebrated.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but managers love a good mistake. As long as you stay completely calm, of course.
Exactly. You can't just panic over a sudden error.
You have to wrap up the disaster with a positive spin. That's exactly when you say, "It's a learning experience."
This phrase feels like putting a warm bandage on a scraped knee. It feels very comforting, you know?
If you just say, "I failed," the room feels super heavy. Right, it leaves everyone feeling totally awkward and defeated. But calling it a learning experience flips the mood entirely.
You were telling your boss the pain was totally worth it because you gained some really valuable wisdom from the messy situation.
So, if a big project completely flops, you know the words. I bet you figured that out.
Another fantastic phrase is, "We'll know for next time." Oh, I use this one all the time.
This phrase feels like a protective shield against future blame. It really does sound incredibly proactive and forward-thinking.
You're promising to avoid this exact disaster later. You're reassuring everyone that the team is still moving forward.
It turns a heavy failure into a light stepping stone. It proves you're not just stuck in the past.
Exactly. You're focused firmly on the next big win.
Okay, so here's your practical tip for tomorrow. When a meeting ends after a totally failed team project, please do not hang your head in deep shame.
We've all been there, trust me. Just gently pack up your notebook and take a breath.
Smile and confidently say, "We'll know for next time." Then just walk out of that room feeling genuinely proud.
All right, let's jump straight into our word review. We explored some useful vocabulary today.
Let's start with issue. You might have heard us say issue during our deep dive.
Think of this word as a problem wearing a very polite suit. It does not sound like the end of the world.
Exactly. When your kitchen pipe bursts, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But at work, a missing file is just an issue. It lowers the tension.
Here's your use it tomorrow example. I'm having a slight issue with my computer screen.
Perfect. And speaking of keeping things cool, remember those gentle phrases we mentioned earlier?
Oh, absolutely. Phrases like, "we have a slight problem," or "there seems to be an issue."
They're lifesavers. They let you share bad news without causing a total panic.
Next up is solve. You might have heard us say solve when talking about fixing bad situations.
Imagine you're putting together a massive jigsaw puzzle. You finally find that missing corner piece. It clicks right in.
That deep feeling of relief is what it means to solve something. You're making the broken thing whole again.
Your use it tomorrow example? Let's solve this scheduling mystery before we go to lunch.
Now let's talk about the word sudden. You might have heard us say sudden today.
This is the feeling of a bright lightning strike. There's zero warning. It makes you jump.
1 minute you're enjoying a quiet walk and then boom, heavy rain pours down from nowhere.
That's a sudden event. Your use it tomorrow example? There was a sudden loud noise in the hallway.
Excellent. And when sudden things happen, we often try to avoid making them worse.
Yes, you might have heard us say avoid earlier.
Picture yourself walking down a sidewalk in fresh white sneakers. You spot a dirty puddle ahead.
You don't walk through it. You actively step to the left to keep your shoes clean. You're staying away from trouble.
Your use it tomorrow example, I always take the back roads to avoid the morning traffic.
That brings us to our final word, calm.
You might have heard us say calm.
Close your eyes and picture a quiet mountain lake. There's no wind, there are no waves.
It's the feeling of taking a slow breath when everyone else is running in circles. Your heart rate is steady.
Which pairs perfectly with our phrase, let's figure this out. Staying calm helps you do exactly that.
Here's your use it tomorrow example. She remained completely calm during the confusing fire drill.
We are out of time for today, friend. Listen, making mistakes in English can feel awful.
It really can. You feel small, you feel embarrassed. But you have to remember something very important.
Mistakes are proof that you're showing up. You are speaking, you are trying. That is brave.
Exactly. Never feel bad about trying to communicate. The person listening to you probably respects you so much.
They do. And remember our big promise from today. Handling unexpected problems in English is much easier. You just need the right phrases to stay cool and find a solution.
So here's your challenge for tomorrow. I want you to use the phrase, let's figure this out. Use it when something tiny goes wrong, like losing your keys.
It would change your whole mindset, I promise. Tell us in the comments, what is the funniest mistake you ever made?
Oh, please share. We want to read them all. Did you send an email to the wrong person, like Ryan?
Hey, let's keep the focus on the listeners. But seriously, we love hearing your stories. Keep practicing those words.
Especially issue and calm. They're magic words.
Next time, you know that awful feeling when you're in the middle of a sentence and your brain just completely deletes the word you need?
Ugh, the absolute worst feeling in the world.
We'll show you exactly how to save the conversation when that happens.
You won't want to miss it. It's a lifesaver.
This has been the Daily Spark Radio.
See you next time, friends.